Hey, what's up? Welcome to the Emptied Life podcast. I'm your co-host, Pastor Jake, and I got here with me.
Hey there, I'm Pastor Jason Wilson. It's an honor to finally get this thing kicked off, and I'm excited about kind of the life it's going to take on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for your feedback and for being with us. We're so excited to bring you some content. And so today, really, it's going to be an introduction. And so we have a little bit of an outline, but we want to allow it to be as organic as we possibly can. So how about we start this way? Pastor Jason, tell them, what is the Empty Life all about?
Obviously a book came out in November, Enter Empty, and that came off of a series I preached in 2021 that was really a kind of a prophetic invitation from God for us to empty ourselves of busyness and unnecessary artifact to become empty vessels for the flow of the presence of God, reprioritize, simplify. The Lord had spoken to me probably even a year before I ever did that series and just said, hey, you got to find a way to simplify things. And because we live such a busy life, we live a life that's inundated with busyness, with information overload, and it's overwhelmed and overtaken by things that are really unnecessary, and it makes very little room for the life that God created for us. And so he said, with the whole series and the book, it was just about I only choose empty vessels. And so obviously that's kind of how the book wound up. And then now to get to this podcast, I think the thing that really, I had on my heart was to create more content, more opportunities for people to have discipling content. But then at the same time, I really just wanted to be able to share my life and pour my life out, not just leadership, not just preaching and spiritual preaching and teaching, but just if I could open my life and make it available to everybody from all facets. I mean, what goes on at home, behind the scenes, just who I am as a person. And then, maybe there's opportunities at times to bring other people on from my family, whatever. And it's just kind of opening our lives and being transparent and authentic. And I think that's what, we're somewhat missing today in leadership is authenticity and transparency. So it's kind of that. It's just kind of a transparent life.
Yeah. That's good. Well, I'm sure a lot at home can resonate with this message. And just as Pastor Jason's mentioning, we're going to talk about a lot of things on this podcast. So encourage you guys to we have a QR code and a link we can put out with this first episode. And we want to hear your feedback. We want to hear what questions you have, what topics you want us to bring up. And just be honest with, what it is you want to ask. Anything is open for us. We'll love to engage every single question that we have. And we'll be blessed to have you guys a part of this journey with us. So in this Empty Life, Pastor Jason, we know that you have a background in full-time ministry. So maybe talk to us, what were those first beginnings like for you transitioning into full-time ministry?
Well, I was called into ministry between my freshman and sophomore year in college, and I spent about 6 years running really hard away from God. Maybe that's a conversation for another time, but when I finally surrendered, and here's what's funny is that we're actually sitting in the room I surrendered in, because this used to be my gym. And it was really right here where we're almost, we're probably 5 feet away from where it happened. I just I was just so overwhelmed by probably the exhaustion of running from God that I finally broke and many things with that. But nevertheless, when I said yes, first of all, and that was that. But I kind of really anticipated I would be in full-time ministry pretty quick. You just think, I guess, when it's just like starting the church. I thought it would be the biggest thing ever, quick, Yeah. And not everything happens overnight. And so I thought I would be in full-time ministry pretty quickly. I was working in the health field. I actually working in the Anderson Hospital at that time, if I'm not mistaken, when I really surrendered. And uh, I had a friend of mine from high school whose family owned their own business, their own safety business, and they were believers. Their family's believers, and they really were in support of obviously me pursuing ministry. And so they kind of created an opportunity for me to come on to work for their company. And we thought it was probably just going to be a very short time. They were kind of creating the opportunity for me to have flexibility, because I was involved in a church in Easley. And of course, working at ANMED, I was in Anderson. Their business was in Easley. So, what they were opening up was kind of the opportunity to be closer to where I was, on church and likely going to get involved deeper in ministry and could have a little bit more flexibility to do that, a little bit more flexibility with a job that was understanding what it may require to get into ministry. And so it was going to be just a little buffer. I thought it would be probably 6 months, and it ended up being about 3.5 years that I worked for them. And that was a really trying time, because here I am with a bachelor's degree in health and exercise science. The plan while running from God was to go and potentially be a surgeon, go to med school, med surgeon. And so, I'm working in the health field and yada, yada. And then I answer a call to ministry, think I'm going to be involved in ministry. And I end up working for this friend of mine's family business, doing something that I never even had any interest in or any, whatever, basically working as a warehouse manager. And, that was a little bit of a kick in your pride in a sense, and I would wrestle with God. I'd go back into that warehouse sometimes, after being there for a little while, and be like, what's going on, man? I mean, this is, like, what are you doing? I said, yes. Like, why am I sitting here working this job and not involved in ministry full time, like what you called me to? And, it worked out. It just didn't work out in the time that I thought. And maybe some of that had to do with, things aligning even a little bit more in my life, because, when I surrendered and said yes, I wasn't married. I wasn't, Serena and I, actually weren't even together. I had done damage there, and we were apart for quite a long time. And, maybe God was lining some of those things up, because in the process of me being, working for that company, for that family, Serena and I got married, and actually she got pregnant with Ashlyn, and right before she had Ashlyn, I believe it was, is when I went in full time. And so I don't know, maybe God was just working some things out family wise too. And I could probably have some, maybe some imaginations about maybe what God was protecting even with that. So yeah, that's kind of how that went. And then I did, get involved. I was, I was a student pastor. I was a young adult pastor, and was a volunteer young adult pastor at the church that I was attending, and they were hiring for a student pastor role. Now, when I was called to ministry, I always knew that I was gonna be. I hate to say it like this, but I just always knew I would be the leader in a sense. I would be, the pastor, I guess. I never had a call to anything else. And so even at that, in my interview, I told them, this is ultimately what I know I'm built to do, but I want to serve. I want to get involved. I want to grow. I want to be involved and invested. I want to learn. And so that's what I'm really, seeing this as, and I hate that to a degree, because, so many people you're in student ministry, and so many people take student ministry as a stepping stone. And that's not essentially what I was doing. I was just looking for the opportunity to get involved. And that was the opportunity. I didn't use it kind of climb on its back. In a sense, it was just, that was my chance to serve the ministry I was already serving, and do it full time now. And even that process to get to launch and rejuvenate was a lot longer than I ever anticipated it would be. So that's kind of, how that went to getting involved, getting into full-time ministry.
Yeah, that's good. I kind of bookmarked a place where I could ask you a question and maybe help relate with our audience or somebody listening now. Let's say there's somebody out there who they know they've been called by God to do something. Maybe it's not necessarily full-time ministry. What kind of tips or what kind of practical things could we share to really help them navigate that season and to understand how do we move into it with God's timing?
And you're saying called to anything.
Yeah.
They're discovering more of their identity is what you're saying. It's not necessarily ministry. I think a couple of things practically, spiritually, first of all, you never quit pursuing and chasing. I think so many people have a wrong perspective, like when they go through their conversion process, well, that's, oh, I'm done, I'm saved, and I can just kind of relax. No, you got to chase God. Or I discover something about my identity or my purpose, and I've kind of arrived at, no, you keep, pursuing. Because everything that God's depositing is in seed form, and that's got to be broken open and developed. And so first of all, pursuing and prayer, and just, I think one of the most foundational things that can happen to help develop a person is to serve, even if it's not if they're not being called instead of full-time ministry, but to serve, to learn what it means to serve, to learn what it means to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, because whatever your call and your gift is never about you. It's always about what you've been sent to do. You've been sent as a gift to somebody or some circumstance or some problem. It's not about you being promoted and you being celebrated. It's about you being poured out. And so learning how to serve and to have a heart and an attitude of customer service, I think whatever your calling is in, I think finding somebody or some bodies that are in that, in that realm that you can connect with and begin to draw from, submit to, and learn and be shaped. I think that's something that ought to happen. Spiritually speaking, you can't place a value on discipleship and spiritual fatherhood that helps, call some of those things out and shape some of that maturity to be able to walk into the fullness of whatever that calling is. And so it all is, Jesus said the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. He said that the last shall be first, the first shall be last. I think you have to really embrace being last, like starting low, humbling yourself in the sight of the Lord, or even your field or whatever it may be, and learning how to develop, to mature and be patient for God to promote you, and not to promote yourself, but you grow at developing you. You grow at developing your character. You grow in developing your resources, your skills, your abilities, shaping those, because in due season, God will promote, he, whether it's ministry or, in ministry, outside of ministry, he will open the doors when it's time. He will, elevate the positions when it's time. He will put you in the rooms that you need to be in when it's time, as long as you focus on growing you. And that's, I would say that whether it's ministry or not, it's just develop you. I actually put a post out on social media, I think it was yesterday. Leadership is never about anybody else. It's always about growing you. It's about growing the model that can stand before people and say, follow me, because I'm going to follow him and I'm going to do it his way. And so it's always about being self-reflective, introspective, and saying, you know what, let me continue to grow. Let me continue to stir my gift, as Paul told Timothy, stir the gift of God that's on the inside of you. And so I think it's just all really about about humbling yourself, shaping yourself, and being developed and maturing with patience, and letting God open doors rather than shove doors open, which is what you see a lot in our culture today. Yeah.
One thing I'm curious about is how I'm reflecting your principle that you just shared, that the leadership principle is you have to lead yourself.
Yeah.
So what is some ways that we can hold ourselves accountable to leading ourselves?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, we have to, Paul, when he was giving us instructions on the sacraments, on taking communion, he said, let us examine ourselves. And I think that that's a big problem in our culture today. I don't think enough people are self-aware. I don't think that they really look at themselves and allow God through the Holy Spirit to look, to cause us to see ourselves, to search us. And so I think that's becomes primary, is that I have to be willing to be broken open and be an open book before God and an open book before myself. Most people are afraid to look at themselves because they're afraid of what they'll find. They're afraid of what they'll see and what they'll have to face, because then you have to take on the responsibility of changing that, or shaping that, maturing that. And that's hard work. That's hard work to die to that old man and become, the new man. And so I think being willing to be an open book before God, to give him real permission to say, hey, search me and develop me and shape me. Just holding yourself accountable before him. And then I think it also, he's a God we can't see. We can see him in things, but we cannot physically see him. So then I think we also, he gives us the natural things as mere reflections of spiritual things. And so in the same way we stay open before God and become an open book before him, I think then we submit that to people around us. We discipling relationships, so brothers or sisters that we can walk with and beside, that can kind of, encourage us, check us, hold us accountable, so on and so forth. But then I will say, I put a premium on those that we're willing to submit ourselves to in accountability and authority, to begin to show us what we can't see within ourselves. Because the truth is, like just with God, even if you are open to seeing yourself, there's still things you can't see. There's still there's still things you won't reckon. Even if you choose to say, what, I want to see myself, it still will take God's influence, the Holy Spirit's revelation, and then too, having wise counsel, practical, great examples, tangible people, that will show us who we are too, or hold us accountable to what's not quite there yet, Yeah. So I think those are two foundational things, is really what we're willing to submit and connect to. And then from there, I think it's process, being willing to learn, be a learner, your skill, your trade, your craft, your gift, whatever it may be, but I think the primary thing, I said a little bit ago that everything is in seed form. Well, you are also a seed, and so there are a lot of things that we can absorb and take in from the world around us. There's a lot of things we can read, things that we can connect to. You have a huge resource and library of content through social media now, or YouTube, to learn things. But above all of that, I think that if you're willing to invest in yourself by praying, serving, scripture, reading, and being open before God and open before leadership, I think so much of what's going to come out of you is already in you. It's just got to be revealed and broken open. So, the world tells us to focus on self, to promote ourselves. And God says, let's look at you to reveal you. I'll promote you if we can break you open and reveal you, you know? And um, you know, I just think that it's a seed principle. You sow a seed in the ground. We're in spring right now. You plant a seed in the ground. It draws from the nutrients in the earth. It draws from the sunlight. It draws from the water. But everything about, you know, the real beauty of that seed is what's inside of it. You know, that's really, I mean, it's drawing from things on the outside, but really it's trying to reveal what's on the inside. And so, we get around people and most importantly, surrender to God that can show us what's in us.
Curious to, you know, bring some lightheartedness,
Okay.
bring some fun into this.
Yeah, let's do it.
I was reflecting back on some embarrassing moments I've had in ministry, and I have a lot, and probably will have a lot more going forward. Can you share with us, like, what has been, maybe not embarrassing, but like, do you have any like funny ministry stories, or life stories, you could share with us?
This is going to sound really bad. I know I have some. It's almost going to be sad. I've not laughed a lot in life because of the way my life has been. And also I have unfortunately been driven to seek perfection, that making a mistake. And now I'm not saying I'm perfect and all that, but I mean, it's almost like I tried to watch everything I did, other than when I was being stupid and rebellious, like, you know what I'm saying, just running from God and doing foolish things, but just never trying to make a mistake. So, you know, it's been hard to have some of those, but I will tell you this. My first, you asked a little bit ago about that transition into full-time ministry. My very first service, now this wasn't my very first like service in full-time ministry was not a church service. It was a funeral. This was my very first, I mean, it was like the first week, I guess, that I was on staff. We had a funeral. And, you know, so if you really want to get into ministry, and I talked earlier about, you know, becoming low, here you go. I'm one of the pastors now, so I'm not one of the, whatever you want to call it. You know, I'm not a low man on the totem pole, if that's the way you want to look at it. I'm one of the pastors now. Okay. In a suit, you know, it's a funeral. And, my very first act in full-time ministry in a service was plunging a clogged toilet. So I got to plunge a clogged toilet as my very first full-time ministry service.
So it all started out becoming empty. You had to empty out.
It all started out with my hands in the crap.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And so that's one. I mean, I will never forget that. Like, yeah, I will never forget that. Getting the plunged turds on my first ministry.
Yeah.
Ministry, you know, service. But I've had, you know, I mean, I've had things, you know, and I'll say this too, up until just the last few years, I haven't learned well to laugh at myself, because perfection was the pursuit. And that's kind of the way I was raised too. And so I've learned a little bit more to laugh at myself over the last, you know, few years. I'm still not great at it. So there's a lot more. If you were asking my wife this question, she could probably shoot them out there.
It'd be the whole episode.
Everywhere. Yeah. I know there's plenty, but I mean, I've made, you know, I think one of the worst ones is that when you blunder a word or something, or where you get tongue tied while you're speaking or something. And my family will point it out. My family will let me know it. They, you know, you said this, and, you know, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's more. I mean, I think, when you talk about a blunder, this was really a learning moment, but I remember remember when I was leading teenagers when I was in student ministry, and I made a bad decision, and the Lord really forcing me to have to face that before the teenagers. Now, it wasn't nothing detrimental, in a sense. It just was out of order of God and without his counsel. And he made me confess that before the whole student ministry and apologize. And so that wasn't laughable, but it was me making a mistake and having to own up to that,
Yeah.
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 I like the lighthearted. You probably ought to stir the lighthearted more, because I've not been lighthearted as much in life, and I need to be lighthearted more. So
Yeah.
stir that boat up.
I got you. I'll send one of the students in the bathroom again and stir up something in there.
Yeah.
Create some lightheartedness. What would you say are some of the top ways that you laugh? Like, what kind of things make you laugh?
I like it. Like if I'm listening to a comic or something, I don't like make-believe silly things. Like if I could use maybe actors or something that people would know. I'm not a Will Ferrell guy, because it's like silly, over the top, that type of deal. And so that, and I'm not a sci-fi guy either. So when it comes to, like, I don't like things that couldn't be real. So I like real comedy. Like I like, even when somebody's doing stand up or something, I would rather hear them telling their funny life stories, like what you just asked me about, that I didn't have, enough to go into right now. I like hearing real life stories or if, we're in the day and age now where you got YouTube and reels and stuff. I like watching the blunders, not somebody that's got a joke or something like that. I don't laugh at stuff like that. Like, you get me somebody that slipped and fell on ice, I'll crack up. You get somebody, I don't know, is things that happen in real time, in real life, in real context. Those are the things that, make me laugh at, or things that I can, identify with, comedies and stuff that talk about how you were raised and how stuff like that you can identify with. It's like, those are things that I laugh at in terms of like a comedy deal, I guess. And, yeah, I don't know. This is going to be bad. It's going to be transparently bad right here. I think probably, a lot more men are like this, but I can't help but laugh at gas. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if somebody's got a fart, I can't help but laugh at gas, I don't know why, but that'll make me laugh, and,
That's fair.
yeah, I think, because again, that's real, right? Everybody can identify with it, things like that. I mean, things like that come out of real life. I can laugh and crack up over.
Are there situations you like to add like comedy on or commentary on? Like if you see a real life situation, kind of keep it going with more commentary.
I don't know that I've probably stepped into that before. I know what you're saying. I don't know that I'm pretty witty with comebacks and stuff, but I don't know that I necessarily function in that wit to play out a situation or to vocal overlay. You see these things today about what do they call when they take the movie clips, but they speak over them or whatever, or the lip reading.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've, ever got into something like that, or even have that kind of vibe. I'm just, yeah. So I don't think so. I don't think I've ever added commentary. I probably could, but, yeah. Now I'm assuming you're asking, like, in a sense, to like continue telling the story, even though it's.
Yeah, or like you continue making jokes about it.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. I can definitely do that. I can go on and continue to make, and continue to crack up about it, or I like to. My grandfather, who I was so close with, his love language towards people was picking on them, and so I think I've picked up on that a little bit, and so I like to pick at people. And so if somebody did something, or if I'll carry on with it a little bit, or egg them on with it a little bit. I will do that. I do like to pick. I do like to you know uh yeah. Yeah.
Thank you guys for jumping on today and giving us your time. We very much value that and appreciate it. We pray that this time bless you. And we want to remind you, if you want to dive into what that emptied life looks like, Pastor Jason just wrote a book about this called Inner Empty. This is going to be in our show notes. It's going to be on our social medias. So please, I encourage you guys to check that out. If you like what you hear and if you want to hear some more, you can find us on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble. And again, we have links on all of our social media. Stay up to date with us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We've got it all. YouTube. There's many ways to engage with us. So please check that out. Before you go, Pastor Jason, can you go ahead and give us an outro for this episode?
Yeah, I just am so thankful to have the opportunity to be in your homes, in your vehicles, on your phones, and just have a chance to share. It's an honor, and it's very humbling to be able to share my life with you, and for you to open up your heart to me. And so I'm really thankful for that. I really encourage you to, I've been, when people have asked me to sign the book, one of the things I've just really felt led to put in every one of the books that I've signed is to prepare for him. And so I just want to encourage you. I'm going to sign off by saying prepare for him. And the way you prepare for him is with an empty life.
All right.